We have about a week before Thunder Junction gets here, but before that, got one less Pioneer event I'll be playing in before new cards show up, and I'm going to go over what I'm going to be playing and why. So I've decided to play boats. We're going to fly through the cards and also the concept of why they call it that. And yeah, here's our deck. We've got our 8 mana dorks, elves, if you will. Pretty self-explanatory. You really want to be going from 1 mana on turn 1 to 3 mana on turn 2. Your best 3-drop normally for just maximizing damage is Reckless Stormseeker. This plays kind of like Invasion Standard for any of us who were alive back in 2000, let alone playing. Using red for your haste and then green for your large amounts of power as a red-green aggro shell. It's kind of a classic archetype. So it's pretty cool. You get to play that in Pioneer. Here's some more of our 3-drops that are kind of have multi-spell play as well with the adventure side of them. So this is our only bit of creature removal. That's sort of true. I'll get into that. This is basically our only kill spell in the main deck. And we're not even running full 4. This is just not really seems like where you want to be right now. Rather just play bigger things and make them react to that. We've got a couple of our Lovestruck Beast. The 1/1s are nice because this is a Smuggler Copter shell. It's half of our boat package. Also a 5/5 though, not to be underestimated. This is one of our other 3-drops. We've got the Huntsman's Redemption. Starts with the 3/3 Beast. Turns into sort of a tutor toolkit. We'll kind of go over what some of the singleton kind of options are here as we go through the deck. And also as we go through the sideboard, we're going to see some more options. It also adds Trample on the last part of the saga. And it also comes with the 3/3. This card actually does a lot. And so it's cool. We like it. We aren't playing a Crowan War in the main right now. I don't think that card is super good versus birds. And then you've got Lotus Field and Blue-White Control. And yeah, it's kind of lukewarm versus Phoenix. So I'd rather just board it in when I feel like it's good. One of our singletons, though, Scavenging Ooze, because I think Phoenix is probably the best deck in the format, and also just the most played, because even if Rakdos Vampires is similarly equally good, a lot of people haven't actually acquired all those cards in paper yet. So Skoo's good at eating birds. Can also kind of just grow, and it's a decent late game threat. We've got Rampaging Ferocidon. This is a 1/of that hopefully in an Amalia matchup we can tutor up, and then they have a hard time getting it off the table. They can't combo us to death, which is nice because we are really soft to getting comboed to death. So we actually play another Ferocidon in the sideboard. We'll be going over the sideboard later. And we got a 1/of Voldaren Thrillseeker. This pairs real nicely with the 4-drops and also with Lovestruck Beast. You can play it. It is a 1/1. Turns your Lovestruck Beast into a 7/7 that can then fling for 7. That's a lot of math, because you can turn 2 Lovestruck Beast off of Llanowar Elf, turn 3 Thrillseeker, come in for 7, fling for 7. That's just the kind of style of deck this is. Then we get into our 4-drops. We've got 2 main 4-drops here. We've got Quakemole, which I actually want 2 copies of, and if it shows up in the mail, I will be trimming 1 Chariot. They're both legendary. So while Chariot's really good, so is this guy. They're both kind of... This guy, you put him on the table, they almost have to answer him or they're going to die. And we'll get more into why this card's especially good in my version of this deck, because I am playing a little off the common stock. A lot of people are back on Obliterating Bolts right now, which kills Breacher of the Schism. Like, I can kind of see the appeal of that, but I also think it's wrong. I think you'd rather have the Huntsman package in the toolkit of rando creatures. Chariot, the other boat. The reason the boats are so good is when you play against a lot of interaction and removal and control, these guys dodge all the sorcery speed stuff. And even though they don't dodge the instant speed stuff, they can't just main phase their instant speed stuff. And so you can catch them on bad tempo if they left lands up and they want to kill it, but then they can't. And any sort of loss in tempo in your opponent's deck, when you're as fast as this deck is, can really go a long way. Alright, so and that's the 4-drops. Now let's get into the last secret spicy 4-drop. Ghor-Clan Rampager. What's really cool about this is our Obliterating Bolt. And we get to play Companion Jegantha. While some people that play Quakemaul play Embercleave. Embercleave is double red pips. We play this, and we also play classic Temur Battle Rage. So we can turn 3 a Quakemaul into play, and then turn 4, if they block, and we can make it so that it survives the block with either of these cards, just gets to untap and attack again. They're just going to be dead on board. And if they don't block, well, most of the time 16 or even 12, not so much, but 16, or if you play both of these, 24, I mean, they're just dead on board, which is pretty awesome. The other cool thing you can do with Anzrag is, let's say they go for like the Vein Ripper trade, whatever, and you have rando other creature, you just Ghor-Clan that, because it's going to untap and get to attack again, and that may also be lethal. So, or more specifically, like if they had a Preacher of the Schism block or something, where it's not going to get that extra combat. If they didn't block your other card, you're going to get in for that crazy trample. And so that particularly is why I'm going to play the boats deck, because I think Ghor-Clan Rampager and Temur Battle Rage are both really crazy. A lot of Phoenix at our meta, which means there's also kind of a lot of Lotus Field at our meta. I think Phoenix is like the best deck to play. And this feels real 50-50-ish on Phoenix. Lotus Field doesn't beat up on this, though. Lotus Field just dies because you are way too fast. And then, of course, we've got our boats. That's the last part of the non-creatures. If you were counting, that's 37 cards. I played 37 cards and 24 lands because I just really wanted that main deck for Rhosodon in case I face an Amalia. And we're going to go real quickly over the lands to actually do things. Because Huntsman's Redemption can grab a basic, we play one of each basic. We've got Stomping Grounds for Boseiju interactions, but that's kind of a given. We're only playing 3 Mudda Vaults because the mana sources can kind of get in our way. But manlands are good. They help crew your stuff. We've got these 2 manlands in our colors. The AFR manlands are great. They basically outpaced every manland before them. It's kind of sad how not playable Raging Ravine and Friends are in comparison to these guys. Just the entering untapped, especially in a fast deck like this, is so huge. And then we play one of each of these utility lands. You know, sometimes people could see the argument of like second Boseiju, but we don't actually use the channel modes on either of these very often, so they're really just lands in the land drop spot. And what's cool about actually playing that kind of higher land count deck for a deck full of Llanowar Elves is a lot of times they rightly kill the Llanowar Elf because they can't afford your 3-drop on turn 3, but then your deck is full of 3 and 4 drops, and they might not have that same kind of advantage if they're playing a bunch of low to the ground stuff. Now we're going to go over the sideboard, which is only 14 cards because we get to play a 5/5 because we're not doing Embercleave, and we're not doing any even non-Jegantha cards in our sideboard. We're not doing Krenko Buzzcrusher. We're not doing Thrun, Breaker of Silence. Thrun's really awesome, and so what we're playing instead of Thrun is we're playing Blossoming Defense. And so hopefully we can catch them in a situation where we go for the Ghor-Clan play, and they try and do the kill spell, and then we come in with hexproof, which is pretty crushing. And obviously this is even more backbreaking when we come in for Battle Rage and then hexproof, but in most matchups we actually usually side this out because it's greedy and side this in to, as you know, to keep our creature density high. And then let's go over some other sideboard options. This is pretty good against the red, black, and the Phoenix. Hazer is just unkillable monster. And then obviously there are the matchups where he's not as good because he is a killable monster. Not actually that good, but I bring it in against Amalia too because it might just be indestructible. It might just be able to block. Might be good enough if other things aren't going your way. You have cards in your deck that aren't really doing either of those things that can come out. So he's got some splash value there. We've got the Akroan War for any kind of muddy the board up with creatures situation. Card's pretty cool. The other cool thing about Akroan War is when you're playing your games and you hit that last stage, as long as you have a Smuggler's Copter or a Chariot in play, you can be tapping your creatures on your upkeep to crew your vehicles so you don't give them back to your opponent, which can be really huge. And it even kills, so the creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. So Preacher of the Schism, Shieldred, they have Death Touch built in, so they don't really care about the higher toughness value there. And then pretty much every other creature you want to kill, you're going to kill, which is like totally fine. And it also taps them. So if you took an Arboreal Grazer, God forbid, but you would be playing this in that matchup, it at least gets it tapped, so you can get in for damage, which is cool. And we've got some Unlicensed Hearse for the Phoenix matchups. Pretty much only for the Phoenix matchups, but like also for Greasefang. I would say Greasefang doesn't exist. I put a Colossus in my board because it's like a card that can also be tutored with Huntsman's, and it's like grindy versus control. But this card is really underperformed, so I'm probably actually going to turn it into Hearse number 3 because this card gets work done, which is cool. So there's that. That's kind of the Graveyard Hate package. And yeah, like also Greasefang, also some other random decks, but not really. It's mainly just a Phoenix card. Here's our Lotus Field card. We don't really need a lot of cards for Lotus Field because we're so much faster than their game plan. Usually just Elf into Stormseeker, Stormseeker into Chariot, and they're dead before they've comboed off. Most of the time they're tripping, but this card's pretty backbreaking against Lotus Field, and that's really the only place we play it. We've got some Rending Volleys. These kill Amalia, which is important, but also Spirits, Humans, some of the more fringe decks. Greasefang too. Just a cheap piece of interaction that can kill a lot of stuff. So it's pretty good at that. I almost want 3 copies. Maybe I'll play a third volley instead of a third hearse. Just kind of on the bubble. This is a little bit of Amalia tech with your Huntsman of Redemption. You can search for Rimwreck Knight. Then when they're comboing off, you can give your creature +2, their creature, you can give Amalia +2/+0 to jump it from 19 to 21 power, and then it goes infinite, forces the game to a draw. So anytime you can get this in your hand for 1 red mana, you can totally brick their whole combo. And that's kind of a good place to be, because if they can't combo you to death, like if they don't have that win avenue, you're just going to outpower them with bigger and better creatures. So very valuable piece of tech, and you only need 1 because you have the Huntsman enchantment. Kind of multiplies the amount of copies of this kind of effect you can put in your deck for an otherwise pretty not great card. And then we've got our second Ferocidon, just kind of more redundancy in an Amalia matchup. They usually only play 1, maybe 2 Skyclave Apparition variant-esque card, so you just throw enough haste pieces out, you're going to buy enough time, you're going to win the game. So there it is. That's Boats, and that's why I'm playing it. Oh, one more thing I want to point out about the Amalia matchup is a lot of them aren't on that many copies of C-Note Scout anymore. And so if they try and win on the attack triggers with Sentinel of whatever it is, the Nameless City makes map tokens. Never mind. Well, point I am getting to, let's say they are gaining life in their combat phase to turn their Amalia into a 20/20. This says target attacking creature. So you can actually turn their Amalia into an over 20 and force the draw, win the game. Draw the game. So just another little piece of tech. And that's my deck and what I'm playing. And I'll let you know how it goes. Cool. See you in the next one.